Well, in the early days, when we were under church, like, all missionary, under the missionary, when people used to make trouble, fighting with spears, he was a black tracker, and he belonged to Kowanyama. Used to be Mitchell River, and so used to work with them. Take the European police to go out and hunt for the men that they were looking for. So when they used to catch them up, he had to handcuff them and bring them back to here and lock them up, or tie them under the mango tree with chain around their legs. And next day they start walk with them. They have to walk on foot from here to wherever they used to travel to. But they have to make camp on the road. They used to shoot some crow for them to feed them, to feed the prisoners.
From early days, great-grandfather, well, my old grandfather, poor old thing, nomadic old man. No doubt about it, I admit that. So we got a bit of a, we have a bit of white man education, but Aboriginal, education too. I do hope that government people, they've been managing them in our country for a hell of a long time. So it's time for us now to stand up, and we're looking at the right point. We want to manage our country ourselves.
They're not here. They're not just standing looking around them and thinking what to see around them. We need someone to get up for them with me, and that fella can get up and try to get it back for them. So I want left for them children, and that's my opportunity to bring it back.
Well, we want the place, we want them to learn so they can manage their own place when we're dead and gone. See? You got to keep the culture up so they can show their children, and so forth. So we're teaching them to keep our place clean, rivers clean and everything, water holes. They've all got bush names. That's why we're teaching them. We don't want that thing to die out. That's been given us from early days, our youngsters.
It really break our heart, It really break our heart where Aboriginal people, where the population of Aboriginal people was here in this land, Australia. From South Australia to Western Australia, Northern Territory, and you put all them together, right up north into Queensland, But because our poor people have been shot like dogs, and that today make us feel very bad, and so unhappy about it. And we are trying to bring our land back now. And it was free, it was a free land, Australia.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and we welcome you up to our community. You can see the elders sitting there. They're from 3 tribes. There's Kunjin tribe. I'm from the Kunjin, and a couple of chap here from the Cockatoo side and the Cockatoo side. We'll be so happy to hear from you, and I think you'll be so happy to hear from us. Listen, what we want, what we really want, for our community, and we hope that you people might, help with us. Thank you very much.
About 15% of Australia's land area is now either owned or controlled by Aboriginal people. And that ownership of land is a vast proportion of Australia. Actually, it's about four to five times the size of Tasmania. And as they start to use the land as they are in many places and move out in terms of occupation of that, the potential for conflicts to occur between themselves and other landowners, or in terms of the way they want to use the land, there is great potential for there to be conflicts between those groups.
Every way they want to, because they got vehicle with it. But we, some of us, black people, we haven't got vehicle to get about in those rivers, and they're very important, we don't want too many people, white people coming in, and draining all that fish from our river, Yeah.
See, our river was ruined, and we don't know what's happened up the top end of the river, because it's all chemical of that mining.
Like, what they're going to leave us with nothing? What they're going to leave us with the wallaby and pig or gator or something like that in the future for our children?
But we should wake up for a long time. Now we're starting to wake up now. We got big more river coming, like we got the Palmer River, that coming into the Mitchell. We got the Alice River, that coming into the Mitchell. We got the Lynn, that comes into the Mitchell. We got the Walsh, that comes into the Mitchell. I see what them rivers coming in, and they're mining up on the head of it. All kind of muck coming down that river. That's not only coming to that one river, Mitchell River, see? And that Mitchell River feeding us.
Then people who own large tracts of land which are a single kind of ecological unit, the unit on which management should be based, can look at the most optimal form of land use and land use planning to get the optimal solution for all of them. And that process has to occur in an environment where those groups can talk together and they can receive advice which is appropriate and certainly not forcing them into certain decisions. And Kowanyama is kind of that kind of process in happening. It's working, the links are all there. All of the land users, the pastoralists, mining, the advice is coming in from the state agencies. That's a non-divisive kind of process which has to lead to the best kind of solution for everyone.
Sometimes I think there's a tendency to forget that people lived here for thousands of years and they're still here. And how did they do that? They did it in a way that made sense, because if they didn't do it in a way that makes sense, they wouldn't be here.
Main problem is increased turbidity of the water due to release of muddy waters from the washing plant, and the other serious problem is erosion of the areas disturbed by the mining and the numerous poorly constructed access and haul roads during the wet season. Because the stream beds have in the main not been rehabilitated and been left as bare rocky watercourses devoid of most of their former trees, there's potential for extreme erosion in these areas and probably siltation of waterholes downstream. No one has really studied in detail the effects of such mining in these tropical, largely ephemeral streams, but it's an area where a lot of research could be fruitfully directed, I think. Obviously, Cape York is an area that's going to be very much in the spotlight as far as land use debate goes.
A basic tenet of conservation of wildlife is that if the species is not self-maintaining, it's going to go to extinction.
The emphasis here is that it's the adverse effects that we want to manage.
Well, if you want to do that, you've got to set minimum criteria. We're talking here about a whole range of issues which relate to identifying what we've got and just ensuring that we don't actually remove its ability to survive.
extinction around the world has increased absolutely incredibly because of our impact on the earth. And I mean, the peninsula and Melbourne and everyone is all part of it. I mean, there are far more species become extinct around Melbourne than have ever become extinct in the peninsula. So it is a huge problem. And Australia in the last 200 years has lost something, some very large number of species. And I guess this is where this whole thing of thinking globally and act locally that one is trying to bring in, that we are actually still part of that global system.
There's certainly a lot of different ways to look at the meaning of words, but one of the things that we've tried to deal with in the state of Washington is recognition and respect that provides the continued maintenance and flourishment and flexibility of cultural heritage.
Tourists can come in here on this community, and we've got enough tourists coming in now, fishermen, all kind of men coming in this community to take up the community.
Will have one truck coming with a boat on top again. We see nothing with a boat on top again. See nothing coming with a boat on top. Why? You just got a boat. No, on the river over there. One day I we're driving cattle there at 20 miles, and we counted 30 boats all with the boat on top. If not on top, you'll be pulling behind. And they must be heading this way. You see? That makes really upset us, eh?
People were stacked up that high. They were swimming in the river. And the water was all red, bloodshed. Top crossing there going to Galbraith, the Cattle Creek. That's where the people been died there. You get out of Ward, he'll tell you the story. And we had the store cat now right alongside the rig there now. Yeah, they just stack them all up to the lead pipe. You can see the skeleton today is on that place.
That really affect us, people, Aboriginal people. Anything like a cotton, well, it's no good for us. But that's why we want to try and keep our land, because that land is very important for us. For you, for us now, and for generation after, and generation after. Because that kind of still goes on and on and on. And white people, they think, oh, this land, we sit down, you're looking at the mineral. They look at the oil and gold and all this, because they're so greedy, they want that land, They want that land, they don't worry about Aboriginal people. But we worry about the custom law, you see? So we got a custom. Black people, Aboriginal people, we got a custom, and our custom in our law, Like us big white men, they got their custom too, But they're not like us.
It's
you must realise you've got people in your community that don't do the right thing either. Same as we've got them in ours. But
yeah, I know.
A
lot of fishermen are doing a lot of big mistake on the community, traveling around, we doesn't know. Some of those fishermen came through there, they destroyed it, put the net across the river and they destroyed it, and they went back, they went down there to go fishing. The boys ran a community here, they came back and told us, and it's all fish rotten.
Yeah.
So we went down and buried the fish. We don't want that to be happening among us.
Nor do we.
You know, gotta be.
You know, with an effective policing system, that's what you got to have.
That's
You're
right.
starting to get well here with your rangers.
That's right.
So we can keep a better eye on that sort of thing happening. But, you know, it's taken a long time to get as far as we've got.
What I'm trying to tell you is here is we've got a head start on all you judges. We've got 9 years. Now, people suddenly come up to you or go to your local politician and say, yeah, I'm from Timbuktu, mate, and I want this bloody river closed down here. Because I've got a couple of mates there and we go barra fishing. Get rid of them professionals. So, give you a rough idea. There's the Gulf of Carpentaria, and you can see it's all sectionised into grids. So, what we do is each day, we pull out our logbook of a night time when we're having a cold beer. These days we can't afford beer, so we've got to give it away. It gives us more time for the logbooks anyway. We put our date there. First of all, our boat name, the symbols of the boat, which are in 3 places on the boat: roof, bow, so that surveillance planes can come along and they see your numbers and they know if you're being a good lad or not.
What we do on the land impacts upon the water, and what we do with the water impacts upon the land. So there's this undeniable natural linkage, and this is the thing that drives people towards using catchments as a basis of management. And it seems that where this approach is being used elsewhere in the world, people are finding it a very logical and systematic way of thinking about and framework for solving their natural resource management problems. It's the individuals that are really important in catchment management, and it's the decisions that they make with regard to the way they use their land or their water which is important. And really what catchment management does is it starts from the bottom up, and it should never be seen as something that's thumped in by government or imposed by government. It really is best considered as something that grows from the community up.
You know, if out of this meeting we do get some sort of a management of the Mitchell River, we, like it or not, are going to be very involved in it because of the fact that we run our cattle along such a distance along it, and you know, we're very happy to come to these conferences and help in any way to maintain the river, you know, as it is, and it's not our intention to sort of fight with anyone if they're going to do anything, you know, constructive to save the Mitchell, which is obviously one of the last big catchment areas in Australia that is virtually untouched.
My impression of that question and that answer and some of the other things people have been saying, there are 2 sort of levels of concern. There's one concern of sort of specific things that this gentleman here was talking about, like people coming and you know, fishing with nets and leaving dead fish around and not sharing them with the actual people who live here, and specific things like that. But there are also sort of more general concerns that, like if you look at the Murray-Darling Basin, which is heavily got lots of degradation problems with it, it's because no one really thought about it in advance. And I think what people here are trying to do is think about the river in advance so it doesn't get into the state that the Murray-Darling Basin got into.
It's a great concern that the natural resources of the area of the lower Gulf in particular are changing and changing fairly rapidly. And I think the idea of a watershed management for all Gulf rivers is something we should be aiming to. And I agree with the lady behind me. I think the object is to do it now and not wait until we have the North American experience. We've got to do it when it's too late.
They need to be protected in all the cycles of their life. If they aren't protected in all the cycles of their life, conserved in all the cycles of their life, rather than just the area where tribal fishermen fish, it's a real problem. Diminishes the right of the Aboriginal people to fish. Our tribe, I guess, is struggling with some things kind of like that people are struggling with here, the concept of governing in a way that will be beneficial to the community. And I see the elders being consulted here very seriously, and to me that makes a lot of sense. They're the educated ones. They're the ones who have the history in their heads.
Aboriginal people in Cape York Peninsula in particular have been using the land over a very long period of time for hunting, for gathering, for traditional medicines and foods, and for various other purposes. To some extent they have felt alienated in the past by national parks, and I would like to see some progress made in negotiations with Aboriginal communities so that they might regain access to those areas. But in return for that, I believe there is a role that Aboriginal communities can play in assisting national parks to manage those areas to the benefit of the conservation and preservation of the fauna and flora species in the areas.
The Aboriginal people know more about that land than we certainly do, and their input will be invaluable. The Mitchell River watershed, a lot of people would not understand, is one of the biggest watersheds in Australia, on the mainland of Australia. There have been mining, pastoral and other interests along the river system, and I think that what we have to look at, we have a unique opportunity here of an basically unspoiled area of Australia. We now have the opportunity, with the support of the Aboriginal people, of putting together a program which will protect watersheds and water systems such as the Mitchell, and I think that we're going about it the right way. I believe that we need much more cooperation and collaboration between state, federal and local government, and that is community government administration. I believe that the Aboriginal people, through their initiative, and it was their initiative actually, has brought to light issues that most probably we did not realise at a federal level or at a state level. So the future, I think, is excellent for a cooperative effort to putting into place management plans to protect and look after those water systems and other systems in Cape York Peninsula.
The very fact that you had such a number of people from such a diverse and vast range of government departments and governments, and from the community itself, basically indicated that there is concern, and that it was a challenge, I think, to most of the people there to look at such a large system in terms of trying to put together a management plan that would preserve it into the future. Water is life in that country. If you don't have a clean, healthy river system, obviously you're not going to have the availability of land or locations for people to live and carry on their normal practices.
You know, when the sun was up on a tree there, we look another one. We see one marker coming. Got a boat on top. Another coming, boat on top, way back now, man. We don't know. We just say, you know, just ignore it. We don't know you, but they know us. You know, they give us way, be friendly with us. You know? Yeah. Hey, mate.
We was called in by the missionaries, like our parents, you know, and we lived there. When the girls get into trouble, they used to get that hair cut off, Polly, and then put sack bag on, because they have to teach us to learn to obey them, to stay in the dormitory. I used to, matron go a bit hard on girls, and they used to make plans to run away. They want to be free from the dormitory. And so that's how it was hard for us.
People got to show respect for us, culture, see, our culture ground. Our great-grandfather's burial there in this culture ground. Still there today. And that's why we all try to be united in one. We don't want to be separating each other. We're all human beings. We're all human beings. We've got to be together, no matter who we are.
Because we just young children, but we still got a land, our agriculture. And we were not Aboriginal for nothing, but we are here in this country to learn our culture.
We hope that, again I must say that we've been looked after by the government for a hell of a long time. Now I'm just about getting old pregnant there. So we must stand and speak for our right. Government people must listen to us. We're not going to listen to them all the time. It's time for us to stand and speak for ourselves, for our families in future, and their families.